Welcome, everyone, to the Lasting Impact Podcast. This is LaPlume, and I am really excited because I've got a great gentleman here by the name of Chris Rivera. Now, Chris is a consultant with the Proctor Gallagher Institute. And you all know we talk a lot about mind frame. We talk a lot about how we can really create the life that we want. And Chris really has honed in on that, and partially through his own studies, but also with what he's been able to learn and get from the Proctor Gallagher Institute. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce to you Chris Rivera. Chris, welcome.
Thank you, Don. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're glad to have you, my friend. I've enjoyed our conversation so far. We're sort of new friends. We're just getting to know each other. But I've been very, very impressed. And I have to say, Chris and I are part of a networking group called Epic. And so that's where we first met. And it's amazing because I didn't know anything about Chris, but I started hearing all of these people at Epic talking about Chris and the impact he's had on their lives. And I said, I got to talk to Chris. I've really got to get to know Chris. So this is your chance, folks, to really get to know Chris Rivera and what he's all about. So, Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself before we really get into everything, please.
Sure. So the way it started was I want to be an entrepreneur. And so about 4 years ago, I realized I want to do something. I want to find ways to earn extra income. So doing stocks and option trades, or at least trying to real estate, network marketing, affiliate marketing, e-commerce. And I had some success with e-commerce, but nothing really long lasting, nothing really impactful. So after a while, you realize, okay, what's the common denominator here? It's me. And so I finally came to a point where I realized I've been hit over the head enough to realize, all right, something in me has to change because I'm learning from smart people, but I'm not getting those results. And I happened to run across a online class. It was a 4-day seminar by Bob Proctor. And realized, okay, what do I have to lose? I've heard about this guy, Bob. He seems pretty smart. He's been around for a while. So I listened to him, and as soon as he started speaking, I realized this guy knows something. He gets it. And I realized what was really holding me back. So much was holding me back, and I'm like, okay, that now it's starting to make sense.
And that was the beginning of what we'll call it the change, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So the success that you wanted, you've always had. It was within your reach, but you didn't really know how to get it. You said something really cool there at the very beginning. You said, there's one common denominator. I realized the problem was me. And that's something that is really tough for people to get to because everybody out there in society today is like, oh, it's not my fault. Well, it's not about fault. It's about, all right, what do we really need to know to get ahead and to get the results we're looking for, right?
Exactly. Far too often we think that our thoughts and our feelings are exclusive from our actions. And that couldn't be further from the truth. The truth is our actions are dictated by our thoughts. We can control our actions to a degree, but for the most part, all our actions, thoughts, and feelings are all habitual. And about 95 to 97% of our thoughts, feelings, and actions are controlled by those habits. So if you want to create permanent change, but if you're ignoring your habits, well, you only get so far. You only get that temporary change. If you want permanent change, permanent results, the type of results that most people want, you got to start looking at your habits.
You're 100% right. Those habits, it's the habits, but what drives those habits is how we think. And so how do we think? We think about that, and one of the biggest things I see out there is what people feed themselves. And yeah, we can think about, we think about feeding, we're thinking about food, but really when we think about feeding, one of the biggest things we should be thinking about besides food is mentally, what's going into our head? Because that drives what we say. And we think about the self-talk that we have and think about what we actually think about. If you get a lot of negative stuff, if you're always listening to the news, you're reading the newspaper and everything's negative all around you, well, of course, it's kind of like a computer, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Exactly. A lot of people are negative, not necessarily because they are inherently negative, but because so much of what we receive is negative. The news is all too happy to tell you what's wrong with the world. But if you want to see what's good in the world, you have to consciously look for it. There is good. You just have to have the
Tons of
discipline
it.
to look for it. And as you said, we're letting the outside feed us. A lot of it, for many people, is they're letting their current results feed them as well. So if you're letting your current results dictate who and what you are, or the way you think, what do you think you're going to attract more of? At some point, you have to go in and use your creative imagination and envision what you want. Now, this is where goals come into play. If you don't take the time to figure out what it is that you want and figure out who you have to become to do that, well, then you're just going to be stuck looking at your results and thinking, well, how am I going to change it? How am I going to change it? Well, if your results are dictating your thoughts and your thoughts are dictating your results, it really is a negative spiral. At some point, you have to find a way to break that. And it really comes down to making a committed decision about who I want to become and what do I have to think in order to become that person.
You got it. And we are what we think. And we become what what we focus on is what we get. So if you're focused on negative, if you're focused on past failures, you're going to continue those, right?
Exactly. And one of the biggest things you have to realize is that although you are responsible for what's happened in the past, that doesn't mean you're beholden to it. It doesn't mean that's who you have to become. And there's a doctor out there who says the best predictor of your future results is going to be your past results. That's if you want it to be.
Right.
Only
Your
if you want it.
future does not determine your destiny. I'm sorry, your history doesn't control your destiny.
Exactly. But if you're not paying attention to what you're doing, or you don't create that vision for what you want, then yeah, your past will dictate your future. So you have to break that negative cycle.
So what you're saying is a lot of people will, because they're focused on some of their past failures or they're focused on what they don't want. And that's a big thing I see out there too. People are focused on, well, I don't want this to happen. So they're looking at that, and that's in their mind, that's what they don't want, but that's all they're focused on. They're not focused on what they want. So all they're going to get is what they focused on, which is the negative.
Exactly. That's the equivalent of driving in your car on the highway and keeping your eyes 100% in the rear view mirror.
Yeah,
At some
you're going
point,
to
you're going
crash.
to crash.
Well, and that's what happens in life. I see so many people that are just not happy out there. And you're walking by people and they're grumpy, they're whatever. And people see me and they're like, "Don, why are you always so happy?" And it's like, well, I choose to be, first of all, but it's also what I'm focused on. I know what's happening. I know what's about to happen. I don't know what happens in the world, but I know what I'm creating, and it excites me. So that's where my focus is, and of course I'm going to be happy. It's all up here.
Right. I would say, Don, you have a great attitude. And when we speak about attitude, the example or the definition we like to use came from the great Earl Nightingale, who I'm sure you know
Oh,
because he was the dean of personal development and radio
oh
back
yeah,
in the
I know
50s and
Earl.
60s. He said, attitude is a magic word. And attitude is a composite of your thoughts, feelings, and actions. So a lot of people claim to have a great attitude. And oh yeah, I'm really positive. But if you use that definition of thoughts, feelings, and actions, let's look what happens. You may have the thoughts and feelings, but if you don't have the actions behind it, that means you're just talking. If you have the thoughts and actions, but no feeling, well, that means you're just going through the motion. And as you study this, you understand we live in a feeling universe. So
Oh
without the
yes.
feeling, you're not gonna move the needle in your life. Then if you have feelings and actions but no thoughts, well, that's a recipe for disaster, because that means you're just flying by the seat of your pants. That's what leads to shiny object syndrome. You got to
Yep.
have the thoughts there to decide, where am I going? If you're just going by feeling and action, you're going to be going all over the place. So when you have all three, thoughts, feelings, and action, all in alignment, that's what we call a great attitude. And when you have a great attitude, that's what really gives you that integrity with yourself and confidence, because you know what you want, you feel it, you feel as though the results are coming, but then the actions are there to back it up. That's the ultimate way to build confidence with yourself.
Oh, wait, and you're right. You hit it right on the head. And that's really where, folks, when we talk about attitude, we talk about mindset, and a lot of people say, "Hey, that's who we." It's I'm just going through. I'm trying to do the best I can in my life, and well, really, these things do matter. We make our choices, and you started right off the beginning, and you said, I was that common denominator, and I've been my own common denominator, right? We all are, but we don't always know that. We don't realize it. So all of our choices, all of our thoughts, they do determine who we become. One of the other things that really matters is, and our parents told us this. You remember this, right? Your parents, I'm sure, told you this. Who you associate with, you become, right? What?
Right.
Why is that, Chris? Why does it work that way?
Well, a lot of it comes down to our conditioning as children, and when you really start to understand paradigms, and for people who don't know what a paradigm is, it's that part of our subconscious mind that houses all our habits. And as I mentioned earlier, 95 to 97% of all our thoughts, feelings, and actions are all habitual. So a big part of it is dictated by our environment. And I can't remember the gentleman who said it, but our environment is more important than our hereditary. So starting out, we may not have choice of who we're hanging around with, but as we become consciously aware of our surroundings, we have to come to a point where and ask ourselves, what do we want out of life? Do you want to be steered in the direction from someone else, or do you want to create your own direction and start steering your own boat? So at that point, then you'll figure out who you need to be hanging around with. And as you start developing, or once you make that conscious decision to get better, you'll find and attract the right people who will get you there. The other people who may not be in support, they'll just fall off. And I think that's difficult for many people. Like, oh, I'm going to lose these friends. I have to tell them no. Maybe they might just fall off. But the question is, what do you want out of life? And who do you want to associate with to get to that better version of yourself?
Without a doubt. And that's so critical, because it's about that better version of yourself. And, Chris, I was reading a book the other day, and because I'm always reading, whether it's an audio book or whether it's a paperback, paper book, whatever it is. I haven't gotten into the Kindle type of stuff. I like either audio or the tactile paper, right? But whichever it is, I was reading. Oh my golly, not Earl Nightingale. Think and Grow Rich. Why am I drawing a blank?
Napoleon Hill.
Thank you. I don't know how I was drawing a blank there. Napoleon Hill, and he was, and one of the things he was saying in there was, if you're not sure if the people that you're around are negative or positive, it's very easy to tell the people who you associate with. When you're around them, be very uplifting, be very positive, and you'll actually see how they react. So some people will potentially be positive, but if they're really negative people, guess what's going to happen? They're going to be turned off by you being positive, and they're going to leave the conversation. They're going to leave and go somewhere else, because you can't have positive and negative together like that. It's just it's the way that it works, because it's all energy.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's why negative people, even though they'll complain about other negative people, they feel comfortable around them. So you'll see the two same negative people always talking, always in the corner, talking negative stuff. And they may not like it, but that's who they feel comfortable around with. Whereas a person who's on that positive vibe, who's looking to better themselves, they're just going to naturally attract, through energy, the right people that are going to help them get to that point. So when people are asking, where do I start? Well, it just starts with, who do you want to become? You start with putting some positive information in your life. I mean, definitely shut off the news. That's number one. But, grab a good book and go on YouTube. Listen to some positive people. And you'll start to feel, I read about one guy who just, through listening to one prominent entrepreneur on YouTube all the time, constantly, over and over. That alone was the starting point for him to start changing his life. Free content, just started listening. And as he continued to listen to this person over and over and over, what he realized, he was becoming this person.
Yep.
So what you feed yourself, it's all the difference.
It really does. And I'm so excited that you just said what you said too. In I think it was the second episode of this podcast, so very early on, right? I mean, we're still pretty early on, but very early on, I put out a challenge to everybody that was listening. I said for 30 days, just 30 days, and only do it one day at a time. You only have to focus on today. Eliminate the news, eliminate the newspaper, eliminate the radio. And I gave them a list. I've got if you go to lastingimpactmedia.com and you just listen to podcast episode number 2, or you just go to that page, you'll see a whole list of downloadable free information, videos, audios, things that you can catch. And if that's all you listen to for 30 days and all you watched, it will completely change your outlook. And here's the cool thing. And I know you can tell me what's going to happen with this. If at the end of that 30 days, if somebody does that for 30 days, Chris, and then they go back and they look at the newspaper, they look at TV, what's going to be their reaction after they've had 30 days of just feeding themselves just good stuff?
Why was I watching or reading this? That's what they're going to ask themselves.
They'll be appalled, and they'll be like, I can't believe I fed myself this crap. And that's what it is. So, yeah.
Do you want to know something interesting about the news? Because I have a little insight into it.
Oh, please, share.
All right. So I definitely like to keep this episode positive, but sometimes we have to understand the forces that are working on us. So I know someone who works in the news, in the ABC stuff and local station up here. And I thought this person asked, you heard that phrase, if it bleeds, it leads, right? And I asked him, is that true? And he said, yes. So my next question is, well, if that's the case, if that's what gets the most attention, why don't you create an entire telecast, a newscast, based on that type of information? They replied, we can't do that. We've done focus groups, and what we found is that if we keep the entire newscast too negative, it's going to draw people away. They're not going to want to come back because they're so depressed. So they have to sprinkle in the feel-good stories and the other feel-good stuff to keep people coming back. But it's strategically placed. Once you understand how the news targets your cognitive biases, it becomes so clearly evident. What do they start with? Breaking news. Automatically hit you with a dopamine hit, right? Because it grabs your attention. Like, oh, breaking news, what is it? Then they start off with the negative stuff. But what does it end with? It always ends with the positive stuff. So it's like a bit of a roller coaster. They keep you really down at first, and then they have to pick you back up. So what do they always end with? The feel-good story and the sports. What if they flipped it around? What if they put the sports and the feel-good story in the beginning? Well, then no one would stay at the end. And you have to keep people to the end. Because once you understand who pays for the ads, then you realize who's controlling the information. And that's a whole different conversation. But I think people intuitively know who controls or who pays the most for the ads. I'll put it this way. You'll never hear about essential oils or the value of sunlight or breathing techniques that can, kind of help with that stuff out there. You know what I mean?
Right.
You'll never hear about that because that goes against the values or the, I don't want to say agenda, but yeah, of who pays the most for those ads. So when you understand that, you realize that news is really not there to inform you. It's just more of an entertainment to keep you coming back. That's why I had to stop listening to it or watching it.
And I'm so glad you did. And same here. I mean, I have to stay away from this stuff. And one of my biggest things is, and we're not going to get into politics here, but I can tell you, I have my own personal views, very strong personal views. So right around that, that big election time, that's when I'm actually tuned into the news for that one reason only. And I can tell you that it drives me crazy. I have to get away from it. And because that is my one time pretty much every 4 years where I'm like, oh man, I can feel the difference, and I don't like it, you know.
Right.
So I've really tried to get away from that. So what are some of the techniques that you've used to really help you to stay always in um, feeding your mind good stuff, first of all?
Sure. Well, one that always helps, I'm sure many people have heard about it, is gratitude, and it's so important because what you put your attention on, as you said, is what grows. Where focus goes, energy flows. So we there's going to be times when things are falling apart around us. The circumstances are not ideal. Can you conscientiously focus on the good things in your life? Because everybody has something good in their life.
Hmm.
Can you focus on that? What that does is it trains your mind to look for the good in any situation. And just like anything else, there's good to be found. Even over the last year, a lot of great things have happened. The news won't tell
Oh
you
yeah.
about it, but a lot of great things have happened. If you can focus on that, then you train yourself to always look for the good in anything. And so, two people come up to a situation. One sees a problem, the other person sees an obstacle needs to be overcome. Person A crumbles under the problem, person B rises above it.
Yep,
So that
that's
really comes
right.
down to gratitude. Are you staying in a positive state of mind?
Yeah, gratitude is huge. And now,
Mm,
how do you think about gratitude? I mean, I know what I do, and every morning when I wake up, I mean, I have a sort of, I don't want to call it a ritual, but basically, I've got something that I do every single morning. So
mhm,
I, my mind, I guess you could say, sort of meditate a little bit. I'm thinking about what's coming up in the future. I know what I'm building. I know what I'm creating. So I'm envisioning that. There's a lot of emotion there because I'm envisioning that. I stretch. I take my time to really stretch out my body, and I take time to think about what am I truly grateful for. And there's
mhm,
so much that I'm grateful for. I'm a blessed man in so many ways, and it it really is wonderful when you think about that. Um, so what do you do to really focus
Sure.
on what you're grateful for?
So first thing I'll do is get up in the morning and write out my big C-type goal. And a C-type goal is that big, hairy, audacious goal that you have no idea how you're going to get, but that's what you're committed to. Because most people set goals that are way too low,
Oh yeah.
that are so easy for them to attain, but because it's so easy, it doesn't inspire any action. So we call those A or B type goals, but I go for the big C type goal. After that, I do gratitude. And the way I do gratitude is I'll write down 10 things. The first five are something I'm grateful for that I already have in my life. But the next five are something I don't have that have not manifested yet. Because we want to be grateful for the things we have, but also grateful for the things that are coming. Because think of this. If you're taking all the action that you need to reach your goal, again, you may not know exactly how to do it, but you're taking consistent action towards it. And you're putting the right information in your mind. Well, is there really any doubt as to whether you're going to get that goal? Probably
No.
not. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. So if you know it's coming to you, why not give gratitude and thanks for it already? It's
I love
as you
it.
said, you want to put yourself on that right vibration. Well, why don't you go right there? Just go straight to that vibration. So if
I
that
love it.
goal is that new house, man, I'm already giving gratitude. I'm writing down where I'm living, the exact address. If it's the income I want, I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm already earning six figures a month and thinking about what am I doing with the money. You're already putting yourself there. Once you understand the laws of vibration and attraction, you realize that's really the starting point. And we talked about this before, but instead of thinking, oh, it's so far off, no, we want to bring it as if it's already here. And so that's how I do gratitude. And there's times when I'll do it multiple times a day. We run into negative situations. Well, boom, we got to get back right into that positive vibe. Do gratitude right there. Live in an attitude of gratitude. Why not?
Oh, why not? Right. It's a great way to live. You know, and you
Mm-hmm.
feel good, and just being grateful, it makes you happy. You know, we all, I don't care who you are and what you've been through, you've got things to be grateful for. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's it really is amazing. Some of the stuff that you said um, will, you talked about manifesting and those types of things. I will tell you this and energy and um, years ago, I might have wondered about some of that stuff, but the forefathers when Napoleon Hill talked about energy and attraction, and Earl Nightingale and Bob Proctor, right? These are like some of the forefathers of development, personal development, and growth and success. When they talked about this stuff, there was no science behind it. It was what they believed, and they could show, but not so much in a scientific way. Now we know there's tests. They can see different things with brain waves. They can see energy. And so
Mhm.
now there is no question about this stuff, Chris. We're
Oh
all
yeah.
connected, and there is a ton of energy. And so, what is the energy that you're attracting? What's the energy that you're giving off? You know, all of this matters. But we don't think about it, and you'll never hear that in the news, Chris.
Never, never, ever. No, they've known about this for years. I've seen information about the CIA was doing brainwave tests, so it's been around a long time. Only now is it coming to the mainstream. I think quantum mechanics is starting to look into this, and so yeah, you're right, it is there. But the other thing too is if you look through and not to get too into much on the spiritual side, but if you look a lot of some of the greatest books in the world, obviously the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, they all allude to this already. And
Hmm.
one thing that my mentor Bob Proctor said is, science and religion are just two sides of the same coin. Right? I think he said is religion is the cause, science is the effect. So whichever way you come from it, really coming down to the same thing. Hey, we are meant to grow. We are spiritual beings, and spirit is meant for expansion and fuller expression. So to just stay stagnant really is in direct conflict with the very nature of our being. So,
Yeah.
and these guys are all putting out the best information, and what they all say is focus on your thoughts, focus on the vibration. And if you're wondering what vibration you're in, it's not that hard to figure out. Just look at your results. Your results will tell you. Results don't lie, right?
That's right. They don't. They don't. Yeah. No, that is awesome, and that's information that really does need to get out there. People need to understand that there's no question about this stuff anymore, and there really shouldn't have been in the first place. Because you're right. I mean, you go back to those great religious books and just the greatest books, and
Mm-hmm.
it was talked about. This has been known, but so many people, today they talk about the science, right? The science behind it. And well, if there's science behind it, great. If not, it doesn't exist. It's not real. It's whatever. And, the science is there. The writings have been there. And the results, bottom line, what you said, the results are there. So, which results do you want to have for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where you have to first figure out, okay, what results do you want, as opposed to figure out what results you already have. Focus on what results you want. And I think a lot of that comes down to the way we've been conditioned and really figuring out, okay, can you create what you want? Can you look from within? And one of the things I learned is a lot of the times people are afraid to look within because they're so focused on what the rest of the world thinks of them. And as I thought about it, like, why do we give more attention to the way people think about us? And I realized, well, it really comes from how we're raised. Think about this. We go to school, and what are we told as kids? The teacher is the one who's going to give you all your information. The teacher is going to be the one who decides whether you're smart or if you're going to fail. The teacher is the one who decides whether you move to the next grade. So inherently, we have to be concerned about how the teacher's thinking of us. Then we go to the doctor. The doctor is the one who's going to tell you whether you're healthy or not. The doctor is going to tell you how to heal yourself. The doctor will decide for you what you put in your body through medication. Then we move on to beyond school, to work, to jobs. The employer is the one who's going to tell you how much you make. The employer, your boss, is going to determine how many weeks vacation you get. He determines whether you get the raise or not. So we live in a system that's designed for us to be concerned about how others think about us. And not to mention, we're always concerned about how our family thinks about us. Never are we conditioned to say, look within, search your intuition. What do you believe? What's your gut instinct tell you? And I
Yeah.
think more and more people are waking up to that.
I think you're right. And when we spoke last time, we didn't get this deep, but I'll tell you, I'm so glad you're sharing that. Because I didn't even look at it from that perspective. I've never, well, I shouldn't say never. When I was younger, before there were times, of course, we all have been conditioned to look at, well, how do people view us? And but we really do need to look within. I've got a really good friend. Matter of fact, he's going to be a guest on this podcast. When he's away right now, but when he's back, but he's scheduled in, and he wrote a book called Unhypnosis, because it's almost like we have been hypnotized in a way just to think and live a certain way, and really everything else around it is wrong, and so we can never get out of this. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of thinking for ourselves, going past that and looking at, well, wait a minute, this is really what I want. Why can't I have this? Wait a minute, I can have this. Others can. What's the difference between me and Jeff Bezos, right? It,
Right.
there are of course differences, but why can't I accomplish something like that? Am I too old? Am I this? Am I that? No, it's
Right.
it's how we've been conditioned, and it's how we think.
Right, right. And a big part of it is we're conditioned to believe that once we reach a certain age that we can't change. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Your age,
No.
your mental, your current age means nothing with regards to how well you learn. Question is how committed are you to learning? So kind of going back to that vision you want to create for yourself. Well, figure out, okay, if you want to earn six figures, ask yourself right now, do you have the habits of a six-figure person? If you don't, that's fine. That's not a problem at all. Well, first figure out what habits do I need to have? Do I need to get up earlier? Do I need to start putting the right information in my head? Do I need to go from, if you're doing a business, if you're doing sales, do I need to go from making 10 calls a day to 30 calls a day? Just focus on your habits, one habit at a time. Where people really get caught up is they think, I have to do, they try and force a habit. So
Hmm.
they zoom right into action without understanding how to create permanent habit change. And if you can understand how to create permanent habit change, and that's a big part of what we do at Project Gallagher, is to try to show you how to make permanent habit change. Anyone can change their results for a week or two. For example, the person who New Year's Eve or New Year's resolution goes to the gym,
Hmm.
right? What usually happens? A week, 2 weeks,
Yep.
they're going to quit. And unfortunately, they don't realize that if you're going to the gym to release some weight, improve your health, if you're working out and you're starting to see some results, but you never change that self-image of who you are, if you still look in the mirror and still see in your mind that person who's been made fun of, who's been judged by the world, who's been told you're the big guy, that's always how you're going to be. If you hold that self-image, well, I don't care what results you're getting on the outside, the self-image always wins. That vision of who you are always wins. You learn to change that. Regardless of what your current results say, the results will conform to that new image. It's just you have to stay committed to doing it.
Yeah. I can give you a life example with me. I've always, I say always, I mean, back in my early 20s, I couldn't gain weight. I ate everything, but I was moving so fast all the time, just couldn't gain weight, right? And then my wife became pregnant, and I don't know whether I had sympathy pregnancy or what it was, whatever they want to call it, right? And but I ate a lot. I slowed down. I was really focused on um, other things, and over time I gained a fair amount of weight. And it was always one of those things where it it never stopped me. I mean, people call me the rhino because I never stopped charging. I'm always moving. But it was one of those things that, you know what, yeah, I'll work on it sometime, and here and there I'd sort of do a little bit of thing, but I never never got past that and I never lost it in the past. And one of my goals for this year, and I do my goals every year, and I'm always looking at them. I want to know what's going to happen, and I know what I can create. But I said this is the year I know exactly not just what my weight is going to be. I mean, I've got it right there on the wall. You can't see it, but it's right there. And I have the exact image of what I'm going to look like. That's what I see. I don't see me. I see that, and I'm down 17 pounds so far. So and feeling great, moving faster, which is never a bad thing, right? And
Exactly.
but it's all part of that transition. But yeah, it's got to be up here first, and you've got to keep it there, just like you're saying.
Right. Yeah, you can't be a healthy person if in your mind you see yourself sick all the time. You can't see success on the outside if you always say, "Man, I'm broke. Why does this keep always happening to me?" You can't have a great relationship if inside you think, "Man, nobody loves me. Nobody loves me." It all that the results, your outside, is just a manifestation of what's going on the inside. You ignore the inside. Again, whatever changes you're experiencing, they're just going to be temporary. We want permanent results, right? So we got to
That's
permanently
right.
change the way we think.
That what you just said is so huge, so huge. Folks, listen to this multiple times. This stuff is gold. When you think about what you really want to become, what you really want to accomplish. And by the way, Chris, you were talking about age. I think about people like Harlan Sanders, right? Harlan Sanders. Everybody knows who he is, although they don't all know his name, right? Do you remember who Harlan Sanders was?
I do not.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, he is the founder of Kentucky Fried Chicken. All right.
Okay.
So he's Colonel Sanders,
Oh,
but
all
he
right, Colonel
was,
Sanders.
yeah. So his story was I'm definitely several years older than you, so maybe that's what I remember it. But um, but his story was he did okay, but he got down to the point where he was living on Social Security. And I don't know about you, I don't want to just live on Social Security. I've got bigger things I need to accomplish, and that won't do it. So, but he was living on Social Security, but he had a dream, he had a vision, and what did he do? He went at that age in his 60s. He went visiting restaurant after restaurant after restaurant after restaurant after restaurant, trying to sell his recipe, and everybody knows the restaurant Kentucky Fried Chicken now. Now, Colonel Sanders is
Mm-hmm.
long since passed. But what did he accomplish? He didn't accomplish that until he didn't even start that process until he was in his 60s. Think about how old, I forget how old Sam Walton was when he started Walmart. We think about, hey, I'm 52, right? So I don't, what am I going to accomplish? Who knows how many more years I'm going to be around? What can I accomplish? It's going to take me 5 or 10 years just to get started, right? That I could think that way if I wanted to. I have no interest in thinking that way. I plan to be here for a long time because I know I have a purpose. I was created for a purpose, and I'm fulfilling that purpose. But when I look at what it's going to take to accomplish that purpose, I know it's going to take years to fully fulfill it. But here's the thing, if I never start it, what happens? It will never get accomplished. If it took me 10 years, so what if I'm 62? But I've
Mm-hmm.
accomplished something that great? Was it worth it to work for 10 years? Oh yeah. You know,
Right.
so so it doesn't matter where you are. I don't care if you're in your 90s, folks. If you're over 100, I saw a story, Chris, a woman who she was running marathons. She didn't start running till the age of 100. This is in Runner's Magazine, this past issue. All right, and so my wife's a runner. So so she gets that particular magazine, and I saw that story. And I was like, that's pretty darn good. She's 105 now, and she's run a marathon. That's
Right.
awesome. So it doesn't
It
matter
is.
what people want to accomplish. You, you've got to see yourself there, and you've got to take that step. You've got to take action.
Right? In every one of those examples you mentioned, you know what the common denominator was?
What's that?
They made a committed decision. And
Yes,
most people don't know what a committed decision is. Let me explain this. If you look
please.
at the word decide, the verb of decision, break it up into two parts. First two letters, D-E, and then the last four letters, side, C-I-D-E. That prefix, D-E, means to reduce down. So words like devalue, you're bringing something down to one. The last four letters are side, C-I-D-E. That means to kill off. So words like herbicide, pesticide, and there's other words that end in side. I don't need to go through them all. But when you make a decision, what you're doing is you're taking all the available options you want, reducing them down to the one that you want, and killing off all the rest. So what that means is you're picking exactly what you want and saying, this is what I'm getting. This is what I'm demanding of the world, and I'm going to get it. So everything else is dead. The option to give up, the option to lay down, to settle for something less, they're dead. They don't exist. And here's why that's so important. Most people think they made a committed decision, but they're not doing it. What they're doing is they're negotiating along the way. So you don't know how many steps it's going to take to reach your goal. It could take 100, it could take 200. But what happens is, if you're negotiating along the way, you're going to eventually come to a step that you're not going to be able to figure out. And you're going to eventually negotiate to quit. But the person who makes a committed decision figures it out. This is what Napoleon Hill was saying when he wrote that chapter on decision in Think and Grow Rich. He studied 25,000 people who weren't living the life that they want. And he found that one of the top reasons, if not the number one reason, the number one common denominator among them all was their inability to make a decision. It's basically procrastination. Yeah. On the other hand, the 500 people that he interviewed for Think and Grow Rich, the 500 people who were successful, all earning $1 million or more, they had the habit of making decisions quickly and rarely changing them, if ever. The other 25,000 people took forever to make a decision, and they were changing them often. So basically shiny object syndrome. So I was thinking to myself, what was it about those 500 people that allowed them to be successful, that allowed them to make a decision quickly without knowing all the facts? And I used to think, oh, it's because they knew somebody. It's because they had the right education, because they came from the right family. Man, I was wrong. I couldn't be further from the truth. What they realized is that whatever they wanted, they had faith in themselves that they were going to get it. They didn't care about the how. You never know how long it's going to take to get your goal. I don't care how old you are. Right. You won't know the how. The question is, can you commit to it? Do you have faith in yourself that you'll figure it out? And that's what they had. They knew they would figure it out. You make a committed decision, meaning this is what I'm going to get, regardless of the how. That's why they were able to commit quickly, because they knew the how will present itself. And when you understand the laws of vibration and attraction, you realize the how will present itself when you need it, no sooner and no later. All the people, all the opportunities, all the resources, all the money you need, you will attract when you need them. You just have to have the faith to take the next step. And you may not know what all the steps are, but if you only know what step one, or if you only know what step one is, and you have desire, that's all you need to get started.
You are so spot on. Oh my gosh. I got to share this with you. When I made the decision, I think I told you that what I'm doing here with Lasting Impact Media, I started back in 1994, and it was when I wrote my personal mission statement. But I didn't make, at the time, I didn't know how I was going to do it. I knew I was going to do it. Earlier, late last year, I said, this is the time. It is now time to do this. I made the decision, and I decided, as you know, with just the way that you broke it down. And I can tell you that from the moment I decided, I didn't know how I was going to accomplish what I'm in the process of now accomplishing. Really, I can already see it's done. I've got to go through the steps. I've got to do the work. It's going to take time. I don't know every step, just like you said. I don't know 100 steps, 200 steps. Who cares? All I know is each time I take a step and I'm getting closer and closer, and I don't know what's next, I'm not kidding. I can wake up in the morning with like, wow. and I'll have that idea. It came to me overnight or whatever. I wake up and that's when I'm meditating in the morning, I'm reflecting on whatever came into my head. And I'm telling you, it's amazing what's come to me. I can tell you, a few days ago, I was on the phone with a friend of mine. And he's down in Florida. He travels all over, um, and I was planning to interview him for a podcast, and actually put together a workshop for our life track system with Lasting Impact, right? And so I called him on it, and he was like, that's kind of interesting. I might be open to doing that. He wasn't very committal, but you know what? The project I'm really working on right now, and I really want to do, and I'm not kidding you, Chris. The project he's talking about, I can't release that here right now, but the project he talked about it fits so perfectly into what we're doing with our life track system that it was like, boom. It's amazing. Some of the people that have come to me just in the past, I mean, just you coming into my life, right? It's all of these people that are just coming in, and I don't know where you were all coming from. I didn't know how this was all going to roll out. I just knew I was going to do it. And so
Right.
what you're saying is I'm living it right now, and I love it.
Yeah. Isn't it good to walk by faith and not by sight?
Yeah,
How
it
good does
is.
that feel?
It is. Oh, it
Most
feels good.
Yeah, most people are walking by sight. They're like saying, okay, do I have what I need? Is this what I need? No. First, make the decision. Then it'll come to you. Walk by faith. Have the faith that what you need is going to come to you. If you're going to walk by sight, well, whatever you see, that's where you're going to continue to get. It's just reality.
It is. It is. Now, and it's funny. You made me think of something else there when you said that. One of my favorite books, and I know I even mentioned it to you already, is a book called The Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews, one of my all-time favorite authors. And in The Traveler's Gift, there's one point where um, I don't want to spoil the story, but the person says to somebody else in the book, David, are you a man of, uh, do you live by faith or do you live by fear? And David says, well, I like to think I live by reason. And it was so amazing because as that person's explaining it and he breaks it down, so many people today, they live in fear. And fear and faith are really the same thing. What are they? They're believing in something they cannot see.
Yes.
Yeah, it's wild. So would you rather live in fear? Would you rather live in faith? I mean,
Mhm. Yeah. And if you wanna live in faith, you have to put the work in and you have to study. And I tell
yeah,
people, if you want to be a good leader, if you want to live that life you want, you have to first be a student. And I'm not talking about a student of me or my mentor Bob Proctor or even Napoleon Hill. I'm talking about you got to be a student of the laws that govern our being. This is a game, and most people are playing. Life is a game, and they're not playing by the rules, and
yeah,
they're just kind of going through life. It's like if I put you on a baseball field and say, "Here's a glove," and say, "Oh, it started," but I never told you what the game was. You're not going to do well. You got to understand the rules we're playing by. Once you understand it, oh man, the game changes. You just feel like, okay, as long as I just do what I have to do, I'm gonna win. It's not by accident, it's by law. Success is not luck. It is a process governed by law. Once you study it, that's what builds your faith. People are thinking, oh, I just have faith. I'm like, do you have faith based on understanding or blind faith? Blind faith crumbles at the first sign of adversity. Faith based on understanding, that's a whole different story. And you can decide where you want to get that understanding from. You want to get it from the Bible? Go right ahead. You want to get it from Think and Grow Rich? Go right ahead. But I think we're at a point where we all realize there's something greater than us. Every religion talks about it. There's a force greater than us. Do your due diligence. Start looking into it. That's what's going to build your faith to begin taking those steps.
so powerful. You are right. Yes. So if you, well, I mean, you were there not that long ago. When you came to that realization that you were the challenge, all right, there's a whole lot of people that are listening to this that they're at that realization that, wow, maybe it is me. What's the first thing you're going to tell him to do? What would you tell him? Number one, first thing to do.
Decide on what you want. You really got to figure out what it is that you want and completely disregard how you're going to get it. If you're letting the how dictate what you want, that means you're just letting the current circumstances guide you. And there's a book I'm reading right now. It's God Works Through Faith. And it really is a powerful message. Figure out what you want and then put your faith in something else. Put your faith in God, your maker, but put your faith that it's going to work out. And then you have to figure out, all right, if this is what I want, who do I want to become? Or who do I have to become in order to do that? You want to earn 6 figures? You want to earn 7 figures? All right. Realize first, do I have the habits of the person who can deserve 6 or 7 figures? If you don't, no problem. You start working on the habits. Again, changing habits, it takes time. You have to do the work. Those are the things that I help my clients with. But there's a process. Have faith and be willing to look. Find someone who can help you out. But you know what? Find someone who has the results you want and just start looking at what they're doing. And it works.
It does. It does. Now, I wrote down that book. I'm always reading, so I love that. And by the way, folks, I will have links to these books that will be next to the podcast as well. So, you certainly get them from wherever you need to get them, but read some of this stuff. What would be your favorite book, Chris, if I could ask, hands down, if you're going to recommend something? I love putting people on the spot.
Sure. It's hard to put it down to nail it to one book. I have 5 books. Can I give you 5 books?
Yes, you can.
All right. So first is Think and Grow Rich. That you can't beat that. Then I like You Were Born Rich by Bob Proctor, because that's what he does is he takes how he applied to Think and Grow Rich to his life. Because if you read Think and Grow Rich one time, you might as well have never read it at all, because it's that deep. So I like You Were Born Rich because it breaks it down from a more like, hey, this is how I applied it. And I can't find anyone better than Bob Proctor who breaks it down. Then there's another book that's really cool called U Squared. And it's like 30 pages. So it's U Squared. And it talks about making a quantum leap.
Interesting. I've never read that one. Yeah. You got me on that one. I love it.
Yeah, by Price Pritchett. And an awesome book. It just talks about you can make quantum leaps. We don't have, despite what most people think, you don't have to have linear growth. You can have exponential growth. The other book then would be God Works Through Faith, which I just mentioned.
Yeah.
And then The Science of Getting Rich. Again, another really deep book. The Science of Getting Rich was written, I think, about near 30 years before Think and Grow Rich. That's the book that the movie The Secret was based on.
And so I've read 3 out of 5 of those. So I'm getting 2 more books. and I've read those multiple times. So matter of fact, a couple of those are actually 2, maybe even all 3 of them are behind me. But I've got books. You can't see them. I've got books all the way around the room here. So I love it. And I've got, I don't know, probably 100 plus books in here. It's just it's you have to feed yourself, right?
Right. So you're a great leader because you're a great student.
We don't know what we don't know, right? You and I talked about conscious competence, unconscious competence, and
you want to touch on that?
Yeah, go ahead. We're almost there, and then I want to bring in you as far as what you do, so people can know how to reach you too. But yeah, talk about unconscious incompetence all the way through, if you could, please.
Sure. So if you look at population, it's about only 2 to 3% of people are living the life that they want. Right? They're hitting their big goals. Of that 2 to 3%, many of them, the majority of them, are what we call unconscious competence. It means they're succeeding, but they don't quite understand why. So, and there's people who are unconsciously competent in certain areas. I had to heal myself from a debilitating disease years ago, Crohn's disease, holistically, and I was able to heal myself, but I couldn't understand why. It's because I was facing a surgery and I didn't want to go through it. So I said, okay, boom, I got to change. So I was able to heal myself in one area of my life, but I wasn't able to heal myself, maybe in finances or in business. And that's how most people are. They stumble into success because they unknowingly make a conscious decision to do certain things. And there's a lot of people who are just making loads of money, but if they had to explain what they do, how they're making money, their mindset behind it, they couldn't explain it to anyone. They don't know how to replicate it. What you really want to be is a conscious competent. Understand not only why you're successful, or not understand not only how to be successful, but why you are. Because success leaves clues. Success is not a luck, it's a process. And that process applies to anything. It can be health, it can be wealth, it can be relationships, it can be spirituality. Understand the process. And now you're a conscious competent, and now you can rinse and repeat. Those are the people who are living a good life, because those are the people who say, this is what I want, I'm going to get it. I don't know how I'm going to get it, but because I understand the process, I understand the laws that govern our nature, I know I'm going to get it. So be happy that it's here already, right?
That's right. And if you know that stuff, if you're a conscious competent, then if everything were ever taken away from you, you could recreate it again, because
Yeah.
it's you know the secret, and it really isn't a secret. The knowledge is out there. So it's wild. Now I like something that you started that with, which was big goals, right? So many of us, and you touched upon this earlier, so many of us talk about, well, I want to accomplish this, and they're here, and maybe that goal is over here, and so it's a little bit bigger. It's a little bit of a stretch, but really, what they're capable of, they have no idea. I mean, it's out of sight in comparison. And I like Grant Cardone talks about 10xing things, and really magnify. I can't wait to read. And I wrote them all down. I've got notes here, but U squared. I can't. You said it was like 30 pages. I mean, come on, that'll take no time at all. But I can't wait to get it. But just magnifying those results. Really, how big can you think? How big can you accomplish? What I like to say, what were you put on this earth for? I believe every one of us was put on this earth for a reason. There's something we need to accomplish. I said this. I don't know if I said this to you. I think I said this to in actually, I think it was the Lori Jordan. I interviewed her. She's a personal trainer. She owns a business where she trains people virtually, and phenomenal young woman, phenomenal mind. And I asked her, I said, where is the richest place in the world? And it sort of stumped her at first, right? And she said, I don't know, where? And I said, it's in the cemetery. And I said, think about it. So many people die with that knowledge, with that dream still inside of them. And if you think about, the cure for cancer, the cures for so many different things, so many different solutions in our society that we need, they're in cemeteries somewhere. Somebody's already had these answers, but they didn't take the steps to move forward. So, folks, what are you not taking the steps to move forward on? It's like, man, that gives me chills just thinking about that. I'm sorry, I don't want to digress, but it gives me chills, and I don't want to take everything to the cemetery. I'm not afraid to die, but I know it's a long ways away from me because I got too much to accomplish. But I do not want to take that stuff with me. I want to leave it here.
Exactly.
So Chris, you're a consultant. You help coach. You help people get to that next level. Tell us just a little bit about what you do and how you help and how people can reach you, please, because I'd love to have people reach out to you.
Sure. So basically helping people figure out what it is that they want and getting them to achieve it. And what we do is we start looking at what are your knowing doing gap. So there's what we know we're supposed to be doing, but then there's actually what we're doing. So how do we close that gap? And the best way to do it is we start working on habits. We know what habits we're supposed to be changing, but why can't we make the permanent change like we were discussing before? So we start doing that, changing permanent habits. And as you become more aware of who and what you are from a spiritual sense, and that's what we discuss, then you realize, yeah, laws are governing our state of being. And you work with the law and you focus on that one step that's right in front of you and you start changing your habits, well, then there's no doubt whether you're going to get what you want. And another thing we do is really work on people's self-image as well, because I think it was Maxwell Maltz, I think it was someone else, but basically our self-image sets the boundaries of our success. So if what you want out of life is beyond your current self-image, we just got to expand your self-image. But as you expand it, you realize there's other things you're going to attract. So you want to earn more money? Well, then as you expand that self-image, you're probably going to become a better person on the phone. You're a better speaker, a better leader. You'll have better relationships. That's why we set the big goals. Because in pursuit of that big goal, you're going to develop other parts of your life. And that's what the purpose of goals is. It's not to getting that thing, whatever it is, it's a job or car or the house. That's good, but that's more the cherry on the pie or on the whipped cream. The real prize is who you have to become in order to get it. So,
Yes.
in a nutshell, whatever goal you have will show you how to get it, regardless of your current circumstances. You just have to be willing to put into consistent work. Consistent work is going to give you exponential results.
It will in all areas of your life. You'll be a better father, a better mother, a better friend, a better boss, you'll be better at every aspect of your life, and you're going to be so much happier. So that's awesome. So how can people reach you, Chris? Because I know you're funny. Chris doesn't put all kinds of stuff out there on the web. He'll put when you told me this, I cracked up. I loved it. But he'll have a few posts on social media, but people reach out to him and just say, "Hey, Chris, what do you do?" Because he doesn't exactly say what he does, because he really wants to talk to you and find out what it is that you would like, and then he helps you
Right.
get it. I mean, that's what you do, and it's amazing. I mean, heck, you got me right. You're like, I just wanted to talk to you because I'm like, I needed to understand what you did, and once I did, I was just blown away.
Yeah, it's there's so much to this. There's so many layers, and so if you just try and vomit it all out on social media, you're not catching the full thing. That's why I always like talking with people and getting to know them, because that's where I can kind of I can see maybe there's something in you that you may not be able to see in yourself. I mean, I talk to people all the time. Why can I see the better version of you, and you're not seeing it yet? It's simply because I choose to see it. And I choose not to even look at your past results. They mean nothing to me. Your previous results are irrelevant. I just see you for the best version of you. And so sometimes someone just has to hear that. That's why I love talking with people one-on-one, because that's where we can try and break through some of those limiting beliefs.
That's good stuff. So if somebody wanted to reach you, how do they do that?
So I go to I'm on LinkedIn. It's Chris Rivera changing the way you achieve goals forever. So that's how you find me on LinkedIn. And then you find me on Facebook as well, just Chris Rivera, and so just search me there. You'll find me.
Yeah, folks, find Chris. We're going to have Chris back, and we'll have some different teachings that Chris does. I know, Chris, you and I talked about putting together a course as well. So that's something that will be in lasting impact in the future. We just started really talking about this stuff, but there's just so much, and so I'm going to look forward to our next conversation, Chris.
Yeah, and if people want to get on a one-on-one with me, they can go straight to my Calendly link. It's meetwithchris.io.
.io. So meetwithchris.io.
Yeah, that takes you straight to my Calendly link.
Do you mind if I put that on our website next to this podcast?
Go right ahead.
All right, I'm going to put that in there. Meetwithchris.io. All right, so
Yeah.
that'll be there once as soon as I can get that up, and we always go and edit these and try and take out some of my uhs and ums, and but we'll get this live and we'll get the page up. And listen, Chris, I really appreciate you being here and sharing all that you've shared. Folks, if you're watching this on video, uh, then Chris looks young. He's actually a little bit older than I thought. When I first saw him, I was like, oh, this is a young guy. And but so if you're seeing this on video on the site, great. If you are hearing this on whether it's Apple Podcast, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Google, wherever you're listening to this podcast, just know that Chris is out there, and he could be that answer for you. So definitely reach out to Chris at meetwithchris.io. And Chris, thanks again. I look forward to our next conversation, my friend.
It's a pleasure. Thanks.